Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today in this live stream, and for those who might watch this later. Today, I want to talk about healthy intimacy. And I know many people struggle with this particular topic and this issue, as I have as well. It's healthy intimacy people are looking for. They're always coming to me and saying, Jerry, I want to find somebody I can have healthy intimacy with. I don't do healthy intimacy well. Intimacy has not been something that's worked out well for me. And what I've found for those who share those kinds of things, as I did as well, because I didn't know how relationships operated. I didn't know how they functioned, and so I'm just kind of in the dark, trying to find my way to healthy intimacy, hoping I will bump into it or it will just fall in my lap or I'll just get lucky. Whereas I don't think healthy intimacy is just simply a matter of luck. I wish it were, and maybe I'd win the lottery with it, uh, or thought I could win the lottery with that. And and oftentimes we also can set our sights on somebody that we care about or would like to be in a healthy relationship or an intimate relationship with, but we don't have the skills to participate on the level that they might be able to participate in terms of intimacy. And so oftentimes we'll feel thwarted. Well, everybody I've tried, it just doesn't work. Or what I will, it'll be the opposite. Will have dysfunctional realities and dysfunctional awareness about relationships and choose people who are not as intimate as we are and what our abilities are. And so they're down here and I'm up here, and we're trying to make this relationship work and it doesn't work. The first that I described was I'm down here and they're up here and I'm trying to make it work. Healthy intimacy is when we both share a kind of a similar maturity about healthy intimacy, or the skills for that, or the maturity for that, or the self differentiation for that. And I believe people can increase their ability to be more intimate while and increase their ability to be self differentiated and mature. That changes the whole relationship dynamics. Dating, finding someone, it really does transform that. And I've over 45 years of working with people, I have seen how many people have come and all of their relationships were just horrible or very dysfunctional. Then they begin to learn the realities of healthy relationships from a systems perspective, and then I end up being surprised at, and in fact just talked with someone today who I think she would have, when she first came to see me, she would have never said she could find somebody. And now she's able to be more open and vulnerable and intimate with them, and they with her, because she has been making those changes in herself. So again, I'm so happy you're here. Healthy intimacy is something I talk about in the online program that I've just that's been launched. You can find that on my website. There'll be some links below as well. Your new road to self, building the self you were never allowed to have, and it is a 6 module plan, a 6 module program. You can do it at your pace. Take all the time you need. You have access to these videos and this teaching for a long time. They're exercises, tools, and things to help you become more self-differentiated, help you to become more mature, help you to change from that old dysfunctional family that's at work in you, and help you to be the self that you would like to be and want to be. Um, the And as I do as I do my talk here a little bit, then I'll have some time for a couple of questions um, at the end, and maybe I can answer some questions for you. But let me talk about some things regarding intimacy. And again, I'm just going to touch on these in this live stream, but in the workshop, or excuse me, in the online program, I go into much more depth of that. And first of all, self intimacy and intimacy with the self and intimacy with others flow from the same stream. And I believe that's a very important concept because everybody's going, how can I be more intimate with others? How can I find somebody who I could be intimate with? And I'm going, no, no, you're looking too far. Don't look out there. Look in here. How can I be intimate with me? Having reality, letting go of denial, being vulnerable with myself, loving myself, being open with myself, self compassionate. If I can learn to do that with me, I can learn to do that with others. And others will be attracted to the person am that that I am in taking care of myself. Because if I'm not taking care of myself and I'm not able to be intimate with myself, I'm going to be much more skeptical about the people that are going to be attracted to me because they're probably not going to be as healthy as I would like them to be if they're attracted to me and I don't really like myself. I don't love myself. I'm looking for someone to love me because I don't love me. If you have that kind of thinking and paradigm and subjective experience, then the you're going to attract someone who's going to fit into that paradigm. And that's not who we want to be in a relationship with because we end up having broken relationships. It doesn't turn out well. All kinds of toxic things can happen because I'm not caring and loving and intimate with me. And I certainly was not. And so remember, self intimacy, intimacy with others flow from the same stream. And I have a module where I talk about that in much more detail. In addition, intimacy is not the same thing as intensity or fusion with another person. For those of us who grew up in dysfunctional families, we tend to, well, intimacy masquerades as fusion and intensity. Um, it's if you we equate intimacy with fusion and intensity. And the problem is that can be, as maybe many of you have realized, can be really, really difficult. It isn't intensity and fusion. It doesn't mean we can't have a period of honeymoon or some passion or falling in love. We can have those experiences. But beyond that, what are we seeking for? And many of us have grown up that I want to be fused and it needs to be intense. If it's not intense, it's not love. If it's not fusion emotionally, it's not love. We need a whole new definition of love. Secondly, the opposite of unhealthy love is hate. And both are a pursuit of another person in an unhealthy way. Unhealthy love, this fusion and intensity, that's an unhealthy pursuit of someone to find love. Then hate is an unhealthy pursuit of another person. Just like when someone gets a divorce, it was nasty divorce. The person, let's say they are, the husband and wife have fallen out, they're mad at each other. Then the husband comes to me after the divorce and says, I just hate that woman. I will always hate her. And she was awful. Oh, and then I say, oh, so you're still married to her? And he goes, no, 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 we're divorced. And I go, no, 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 you're still married. You're still married emotionally. You're still pursuing her through hate. What you were pursuing her when you were married was another maybe unhealthy out of balance. Well, now it's an out of balance where you're pursuing her with hate and anger and resentment. And that's pursuit, folks. That is pursuing someone. We know that in family systems thinking. You're still pursuing someone when you hate them. Um, Now, I'm not saying people don't do hate worthy things or harmful things or abusive things. Of course they do. But I don't want them stuck inside me with anger and resentment. I don't want that in my life. I want to be free from them. So again, that detachment is so important for moving on to a healthier relationships. Yeah, the opposite is really more indifference or separateness. Um, the and yet I say that in the opposite of love is indifference. But I don't want to say we don't need indifference or don't need separateness um, or space or distance in our relationships because we probably do need more of that in healthy relationships. And if you know other healthy couples, people that have had healthier relationships, and maybe you've seen them, watched them, they have a different dynamic than people who are in unhealthy relationships. Many times we can be prickly, we can be easily triggered, we can misunderstand real easily, we can get reactive. But people who have a healthier relationship with each other, they're not engaged in that as much. They just don't engage in that. They have a healthier balance of togetherness and separateness. They have a healthy balance of those two forces. And that's what we head towards in terms of healthy intimacy. One of the ways to achieve greater intimacy is to focus on the your restrainers to intimacy, the ones that are out of our awareness. So, in other words, we want to resolve the downsides of greater intimacy. If I were more intimate with myself or with others, what would be the downside? And those are the restraints for me being able to be more intimate. And it may not be things we're even conscious of. So, okay, if I were more intimate, what would be the downsides? Oh, well, I can think of one. I could get hurt. There's a good, and I have a lot of people who will go, "Oh, well, I'll get hurt." So, or I stay mad at my ex while I go into this new relationship because I never want that to happen again. So I will stay mad and angry. The problem is you're more likely to have it happen again because you're still connected to it. And you might just be recreating it over again. And so what we want to do is loosen those emotional bonds, letting those things go, letting go so that we can go on to a new relationship and it's not being fueled by unresolved attachment because it's unresolved attachment is really what it is. I'm still attached to the ex-wife that I hate, so to speak. And if I hate them, then you're still attached to them. And I tell people, well, how about getting an emotional divorce? You've gotten a legal one, a financial one. How about we work on the emotional divorce? Because I think that could be the most important divorce you could even have, besides the money and the much, much more in terms of life satisfaction, happiness, and finding another relationship. So we want to look at the downsides of what it would mean for us to be more intimate and resolve those downsides. We also can increase our intimacy. Oh, this is always people, this is going to be a fun one. Increase your intimacy with your family of origin, externally or internally, to gain greater ability to be intimate. And I know everybody's going to say, oh, but why should I go deal with those crazy people and they were bad? Let me explain what I mean so that you don't misinterpret what I mean. I'm not saying you should go be best friends to all of your abusive family members. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if we, um, and by the way, I say, well, they are all dead. One of the, it doesn't matter whether they're dead or alive. I'm going to describe that. It doesn't matter whether they're here or whether they're not here. If we have cut off emotionally from our family of origin, that's not the same thing as no contact. That's an emotional cutoff. That the it tends to limit and make more difficult my ability to be intimate and more healthy, balanced, mature self in relationships. If I move closer to my family of origin and actually move through them, I can be much more intimate if I can go through them. Now, by the way, I'm not saying go to your family home and set your parents down and talk. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about emotionally working through the attachments you still have with your family of origin to come out on the other side rather than running this way away from your family. Because the more we just run away from those issues, they're going to stay cemented and caught in us. We want to go through the family and past it so that this becomes far less important or it's not a dynamic in my life. So it and so many people just want to go that way. I just want to get away from them. Okay, well then get away from them. If they're unhealthy or toxic or that's fine, but that doesn't mean you've resolved your issues with your family just because you're now no contact. No contact doesn't mean you're resolved. You've resolved those things. You may be in a healthier place because you may not be as abused. There may be some good things with doing that. But when you're talking about, Jerry, I want to learn how to be more intimate, well, then go back through your family and go past them rather than away from them. Because I want to grow past my family. And I talk more about that in the online program as well. Take a look at the link below and check out. There's also a free training. When you check out the links below, there's a free training. Please go and get that. It's absolutely free. 84 minutes. It will kind of give you a sense of what might be going on in the online program. Take a look at that. That's free. Enjoy that. And you can set up a time to watch that training. And that's separate from the online program. That's just a gift for you. The And so dealing with family of origin issues is a way of learning to become more intimate. Because where did we learn intimacy? Where did we learn anything about intimacy? Good, bad, indifferent, ugly, pretty. Where did we learn about intimacy? When you were growing up. You were modeled it, though it's not just modeling, it's deeper than that. But, how did dads treat moms? How did men treat women in your family? How did women treat men in your family? Who put value where? How did mom and dad talk? Did they talk about feelings? Did they ever talk about sex? Did they ever, what was their relationship like? You remember that was your first relationship that you were a part of. Your family relationships were your first relationship. And that's where you go, oh, this is what intimacy or relationships is about. Huh. Then we go out taking that into adulthood. We internalize it, take it into adulthood, and then things aren't working. And we don't know why. Why isn't this working? Um, because we haven't resolved those issues. Another point, reducing emotional reactivity and staying calm um, in a relationship is the heart of increasing intimacy. This work increases our tolerance for intimacy. Working on staying calmer and staying less reactive. Now, why is it important to stay calmer and less reactive? Just because you can appear like you're more like an adult? That's not the key to that. It's not so you appear to be more adult, though you may actually appear to be more adult by doing that, but that's not the point. Um, with um, if we stay more calm, if we stay less reactive and work on that, then the family of origin issues are triggered less in us and overwhelm us and cloud our thinking and our perspective. Because that family super self, which I talk about often, that we are a part of, this Wi-Fi that's going on, that's a part of me, that family super self is triggered by reactivity and a lack of calmness. So if you can stay calm, stay less reactive, you then can walk and maneuver a little more carefully in an adult recovered way, because you're not being triggered by everything that went on years ago within you that's still alive in there that maybe you haven't resolved yet. So that's one way to help keep those triggerings down. So I do try to help people with calmness and reducing their reactivity. And many times it's better to do nothing than to do something. Not because doing something is bad, it's that doing nothing might give you time and help you to calm down and be less reactive. Then you might have a better outcome. Um, Small, successful attempts at intimacy while maintaining the self builds confidence and increases the self's ability to stay connected while being yourself. When we think about intimacy, it's about I want to stay connected to the other person emotionally, but I want to also be myself. Now, that sounds easy. Just be yourself and stay connected. It's not as easy as many people think. It takes practice to do that. How can I stay connected and be me? The other thing about going through family is how can I deal with, stay connected emotionally, not as friends and let's go out and play golf or let's go to dinner. It's not that. It's staying connected emotionally while being myself and moving through this way and moving past them. I want to move past them in terms of maturity, a sense of self, more awareness to reality, and a more mature perspective and more clear headedness without all the dysfunctional noise that they are dealing with a lot of the time, that's going on with them all the time. They are activated all the time, is what I've found, especially for dysfunctional families. Achieving and finding healthy intimacy has less to do with the other person and more to do with self intimacy, self awareness, self definition, and self regulation. And I kind of implied that early on with saying self intimacy and other intimacy flow from the same stream, and they really do. So when people go, I'm having trouble with intimacy, well, how are you having trouble with you? Oh, but I just want to talk about Jane or Bill or and how it's so hard to be intimate with them. Well, okay, we can talk about that, but you're trying to fly a 747. Excuse me. You're trying to fly a 747 and you haven't learned how to fly a single engine jet yet, a single engine plane. And so you're going, help me to be more intimate with my boyfriend or my spouse. Well, you're not even intimate with you. How? I mean, I can tell you what to do, but I think you're going to have a hard time doing it and being consistent and even understanding it fully. Not that you're dumb. I wasn't dumb. There were just things I didn't know. And maybe ignorant is the right word. And ignorance not a pejorative term. If we just don't know something, we don't know something. Well, we grew up in families where we didn't know something. We didn't get the memo. So, um, again, achieving and finding intimacy has less to do with other people or another person than it has to do with you. The last thing I wanted to share was I love Harriet Lerner's Lerner, Harriet Lerner's definition of an intimate relationship. You can find that in her great book, The Dance of Intimacy, which I would definitely recommend. I think it's a great book for intimacy. And then I even add to it quite a bit more in the online program and provide my own helps for increasing your ability to be intimate and find intimacy. Harriet Lerner states, an intimate relationship is one in which neither party silences, sacrifices, or betrays the self, and each party expresses strength and vulnerability, weakness, and competence in a balanced way. So if you want to know what an intimate relationship, that's a great description of it. That I don't betray and silence me, and I'm also able to be vulnerable, weak, competent, and in a balanced way in the relationship. And that's a systems view of relationship health, which I like the way she describes that, rather than a more individualistic view, which is I love you, you love me. Okay, now we have a healthy relationship. Well, I'm not sure that is true or always is true for sure. An intimate relationship is one in which neither party silences, sacrifices, or betrays the self for either one of them, and each party expresses strength and vulnerability, weakness, and competence in a balanced way. And I think it's definitely possible. I've seen it so many times. And in fact, I think it's achievable. I think it's something we didn't get the memo on. I think we can get the memo, um, and that there's certainly things that we need to do to mature because we're growing into this healthy relationship or healthy intimate relationship, and that I think there are certainly pathways to do that because I've seen it with people who I even thought might not get it and maybe couldn't get to that point. They have. I've been surprised I don't know how many times. And they've just said, I never knew you could feel this way. I never knew you could be this way after working with me. Um, and and I think again the online program you might want to take a look at that because it does have intimacy and healthy relationships in there, and also the earlier modules prepare you for this type of definition. It prepares you to, okay, now how can I then do an intimate relationship? Um, yeah, and I think to an extent, most people suffer from arrested development. Thank you. I didn't see your name. What was that? Daniel. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, when you grow up in a dysfunctional family, you've got arrested development. I mean, and so, but here's the point. If you're going to unarrest your development, if you're going to develop, tell me how to do that. Can you tell me how to do that? Um, and that I believe I can share with you how to do that. Because if somebody could share it with me, if I could take it in, if I can learn it, so can you. But you just don't even know. You don't know my background. You don't know what I've been through. Uh, Someday I'll write a book about all that. The Because if I can do it, anybody can, or most anybody. I know if somebody's characterologically broken, if someone's a narcissistic sociopath, they're probably not going to make a lot of development in their adult development. They're just going to keep using people as pawns because that's all they know, and they don't have the insight and ability to be able to do too much with that. So there are people who are very broken, sadly, uh, but there are many, 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 many of us who are. There's much more possible that we could achieve with kind of the right direction, and that's what I kind of want to provide. And I've tried to provide for 45 years and put up 400 videos on YouTube and they're all free. It was my way of paying it forward. I wanted the people to have some opportunities that I didn't have. I wish I'd have had my online program 40 years ago. I wish I could have watched that. Somebody who would have done that. I really wish I could have done that. That would have probably helped me so very much. It wasn't until I was in graduate school that I began to learn more about from a great pastor, psychologist, professor who just I'm so fortunate to have met him and had him as a teacher. And every time I heard his lectures, I just thought, I'd like to be like him. What does he know that I don't know? There's things he knows I don't know. Why does he know these? How does he know these things? Where does he go read them? I want to find out. And I actually was able to find out. And I've been trying to share those things with people for 45 years. Does anyone have a question? Maybe I could do a couple questions here at the end of our excuse me, live. Sorry for the coughing. I apologize. Um, if you have a question, I could take a look and see. You could write question in caps and then have a question afterwards. Or you don't have to. If you don't want to ask a question, I just thought I'd make myself available. I wasn't able to see all of the comments as they go by. Um, the and Wavy, I think you would really enjoy the live. I'm glad you're joining. the It seemed like somebody had talked about the just question. I really can't stop getting anxious when my partner is anxious. I know you've spoken at length about it. What do I do? Oh, I think that is well. Let me give you a little brief thumbnail. If you can't stop being anxious about your partner's anxiousness, it's not about your partner's anxiousness. It's about anxiousness you learned long ago. And it's an anxiety that you're continuing to be triggered. That chronic anxiety from the past is being triggered now by your partner, spouse, or boyfriend, girlfriend. It's going to be triggered by that. Now, does that mean your spouse doesn't have anxiety? No, I'm sure they do. But do you know there's a lot of people around you who have anxiety that I would guess doesn't trigger yours? I'm just guessing. Maybe that's not true. I'm just saying. But there are people that I feel anxious around because of their anxiety. There are other people who are anxious and it doesn't trigger my anxiety because there's a story behind all this. There's a narrative, there's a whole process going on of my family of origin at work in me. So, when did you begin to learn to feel that anxiety? And when did you feel you had to respond to other people's anxiety? Um, which would trigger yours. And my hunch is that was long ago. It's just now getting continues with your spouse, but it was long ago. And unpacking that, and um, so that the so that we can begin to release that old pattern that's there. Because I don't think it's about your husband, or your spouse. I don't think it's about it. It is a trigger, absolutely. I mean, I'm not denying but I don't have to deny the pattern that you see. I just want to talk about their different universals underneath it to explain it. That's what I mean when I try to describe things to people. That it's not what you're saying is not true. It's absolutely true. He's anxious, you get anxious. Then my hunch is your anxiety pings him, his anxiety then pings you back, your anxiety then and we have this whole feedback loop. But that feedback loop started long ago. The other thing is, let's take a look at the downsides. If my husband were anxious and Jerry waved a magic wand and I could no longer be anxious about his anxiety, what would be the downsides? What would be the problems? And I think that could be a very important question to gain some awareness. In other words, if you stop doing it, which I'm not saying it's easy to do, but I'm saying if you could wave that miracle magic wand, what would happen if you were not? Because I know with my mom would be anxious, I would be anxious, then I'd make her anxious, she'd make me anxious, and then when I began to realize, wait a minute, if I stop being anxious, what what would be the downsides of that? Oh, she would think I wouldn't care. She would think I don't love her. She would think I'm cold and heartless. She would, oh, well, we're not even together as a couple anymore, if I talk about a relationship. And because what that does is it leaves them with the spotlight on their anxiety rather than spotlight on this pinging of anxiety. Just like when somebody comes to me and says, Jerry, um, I think you've hated me for many years, and that has hurt me so badly. And you can tell they're anxious. They want to tell me this. And I go, well, I'm so sorry you're feeling that way. That must be horrible. Um, and look what I'm doing. I'm not being pinged. I'm letting them have their anxiety. I share some empathy or understanding. Well, that must be awful. While realizing that I've never hated them, all of the I don't know where they got that. That's never been my reality. And rather than, oh, I feel ashamed or guilty. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you felt that way about me. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about that. No, I'm not sorry about that. I never did it. But I am sad that you feel badly about that irrational belief. I do. That's unfortunate, but I'm not going to get anxious about it. There's no reason for me to get anxious about it. That's anxiety for anxiety's sake. I haven't done that to them. I hope that helps explain a little bit. I think I've got another question. How can you have a healthy relationship with a family who have never had healthy, intimate relationships themselves and want you as their whoops, and want you as their child or grandchild to fulfill their needs for intimacy? And you're saying, how can you have a healthy relationship with that? Well, number one, their side of the tennis net is not going to be a healthy one. So we know that they're not going to have a healthy side to the relationship. So what I'm thinking of, what is a healthy relationship for me with them as they are? immature, don't know how to do intimate relationships, needy out the wazoo, very, very needy. How can I have a relationship with them? And that's what I want to do in terms of being a mature adult. Well, I'm so sorry that I don't meet your expectations. That must be awful. What are we going to have for lunch? That's me having a healthy relationship with a dysfunctional person. Or, I hear your complaints about what I'm not doing, but I do think see it much differently than you. Now, you may think I'm trying to hurt you on purpose or what being too detached or whatever I understand that, but that's kind of where I'm at, and I hope we can continue to have a relationship. But again, I'm not going to be inviting them out to for a party every weekend. I'm not going to be best friends with them because they're not able to maintain that. So I can then just maintain my own healthy sense of self for a short time when I'm with them, just a short time. Um, and we have to think in smaller increments when you have a dysfunctional family. I'm not talking about, okay, I'm going to do this and they're all going to love me and I'm going to love them. No, no, no. They are not well. They have many, many issues and many needs. I have a few issues myself. I come with issues to this party as well. Um, and so I want to come realizing I have the issues, but that I can also take care of me, love me, protect myself, and differentiate and disagree and say, "Oh, well, I'm not, I you've never wanted to have a close relationship with your family, Jerry. You've never oh, guten Tag. Yes. You've never wanted to have a close relationship with your family. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. That must be awful to think about me that way. Huh, that must be very painful. However, I do need to share, uh, I don't know that guy. I don't know that guy who's never wanted to have a healthy relationship with his family or have a close relationship or whatever. That Jerry, I don't know. I would have always liked that. I just think it's not easy for us as a family. And that's my opinion. And you can accept that, not accept it, be mad about it, you can do whatever you want to do. But the, I, you know, and I can remember even talking to my own mom and saying, Mom, we don't do that well in our family. Because I know she always wanted me to be close with my brother. Well, my brother and I are just two different people. We're we were never going to be close that way. Though actually, I think when both of us gave up being close, having been pushed together by mom all those years, we actually became closer when you have that dynamic off. When you kind of accept, hey, we're two different people. So I think that, and TM, I'm glad, and Foreigner, I'm glad that I wish I could have been there 25 years ago. Wish somebody would have been there 40 years ago for me. The and I'm glad some of these statements are a help to you. I can tell my voice is just kind of having a little bit of rest. I've been doing a lot of recording lately, and my voice is kind of raspying. I want to again direct you to the online program. Get the free training. Please click like on this video. That helps with YouTube and getting videos out. If you click like, subscribe to the channel, click the bell so that you're automatically notified when I do a live or have a new video up. Um, and all of those would be grateful. I would be grateful if you would do those things. Again, your new road to self is the online program. I think it would save you thousands of dollars and many years of therapy. Thank you so much for watching and being here today. I'll be having more live streaming. Have a great day and be wise.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a life and relationship coach. And I wanted to share some important things with you today in this video entitled 15 Assertive Rights as an Adult. And this is part one. I'm going to do the first 5 of the assertive rights. Then I will do 2 other videos to include the other 10 assertive rights as adults. I hope that you'll subscribe, like, comment, and join and support this channel so that I can do more free videos for you. I'd like to review the assertiveness rights for adults. They have been a big help to me in understanding what is normal for adults. Many of us growing up in dysfunctional families, many of us growing up in our family of origin, we may not have learned a good deal of the normal assertiveness rights that we have as adults, also as recovering adults. And I want to send a special shout out of thank you to the book When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Manuel Smith. And I've made a hybrid of rights that he has and rights that I have added, trying to integrate a family systems approach. And again, this video is number 1, and it is the first 5 rights. Many of us have grown up with many non-assertive rights of codependency and the non-assertive rights of dysfunctional families. For example, some of those non-assertive rights would be always make others happy, never make anyone feel hurt, sad, anxious, or mad. Kind of always control the negative feelings of other people. And your assertiveness, if it causes them discomfort, then don't do that. Never say no unless you have a very, very good reason to say no. Another rule, always define yourself the way others see you. If it makes you feel anxious, then you're probably doing the wrong thing. That's also a non-assertive right. You should never change your mind. It only interferes with the relationships running smoothly. And you will look weak or immature, so never change your mind. Another one is don't do anything you can't justify. Also, everyone has a right to know your reasons and excuses for what you want and for your decisions. An additional one is saying, I don't know, only shows your inadequacy and your lack of knowledge. And it will end up hurting people in the long run. Another one is, if others define me, then I should accept it or argue with them to change their minds. Those are some of the non-assertive rights or dysfunctional rules that we've oftentimes lived by. There are many, many more. Let me talk about the first assertiveness right. You have the right to judge your own behavior, your own thoughts and emotions, and to take responsibility for their initiation and the consequences. Let me read that again to you. You have the right to judge your own behavior, your own thoughts, your own emotions, and to take responsibility for their initiation and consequences. I have the right not to be manipulated by other people who are judging my behavior, my thoughts, and my emotions, because I am the judge of these, not they are the judge of these. Others are not the judge of me. I am the judge. My conscience is the boss, and my values and choices and needs are mine. My conscience is the boss, and my values control my behavior, thoughts, and feelings. You have the right to be the ultimate judge of yourself, continuing on with assertiveness right 1, because this is a part of that. You have the right to be the ultimate judge of yourself versus I should be controlled and others should control me. I should control others, others should control me. We often are so shoulded and so oughted, you should and you ought, and judged by roles, rules, and what has always been. And I think that's why that's so often the basis of the judgment. Roles, rules, and what has always been. And then in many cases of narcissism and such, in that you're not doing what someone else finds best for them. Being our own judge can be a very frightening thing. And I remember when I was in seminary and thinking, gosh, what if I'm in charge of what I believe? What if I'm in charge of my own thoughts and feelings? Should I have my own thoughts and feelings? Because there's probably so many other ways that other people are right, other books are right, everybody's right but me. No, I have the right to judge my own thoughts, feelings, and actions. Our behavior, thoughts, and feelings are not responsible for someone else's happiness or someone else's feelings. If I don't want to go on that trip and many feel disappointed, I'm not responsible for their disappointment. I'm responsible for my choice. I may not wish to go. And I can judge whether that is an appropriate action or an inappropriate action, a selfish action or a non-selfish action. But if I don't want to go on that trip, I have a right to make that. If everybody in the world feels hurt by that, that's not my responsibility. And it is not healthy or moral to put the responsibility of your own happiness on someone else. If someone else, of course, doesn't want to go on the trip, you're responsible for your disappointment and your hurt or anger. That's your responsibility. It's not theirs. That's assertiveness right 1. Assertiveness right 2. You have the right to offer no reasons or excuses to justify your behavior or choices. Let me say that again. You have the right to offer no reasons or excuses to justify your behavior or choices. I remember, and in working with so many couples, helping couples have a better relationship and healing and successful relationships over my many 45 years or so working with couples, individuals. And of course, there are some who have chosen to divorce, or a spouse has chosen to divorce, and the other one doesn't wish to divorce. Well, I can't make the one spouse stay in the marriage. It's for each person to decide whether they want to stay in the marriage. Certainly, I like to see couples work through their issues in the marriage and become stronger and happier, but sometimes that just does not happen, and there have been so many things that occurred that it makes it virtually impossible. And often we get a lot of whys from others, especially when we make a choice about something in our own life. And divorce is a big choice. It's a very big choice, and it's a hard choice. And I found that hard for so many people who have made that choice. It's not easy. And of course, I don't believe divorce solves all the problems either. I think and I educate and talk to both parties about the importance of just because you get a divorce doesn't mean that wipes the slate clean. There are lots of issues that brought us into this, that continued the conflict and continued the problems. And we need to work on those things, divorce or no divorce. We will often get a lot of whys, and I wanted to share with you, why do people ask whys? Why do they ask you why? They are often a means of resistance. They want to use our reasons and our excuses and our answers to change our mind. And I remember a number of couples I've worked with, and let's say it could go either way, the man or the wife, but let's say the man doesn't want the divorce and the wife does. And she's wanted a divorce for the last 15 years. She's been unhappy. Her husband has not been always a kind or caring or loving husband, and she wants to exit the marriage. And she's thought about this for a very long time. And so she's asking me, well, how do I share that with him? And I said, well, I think briefly and succinctly is probably the best. I feel like I want to tell him all the reasons. And I'm going, you're certainly free to tell him all the reasons if you want to, but you don't have to. You're making a choice to exit the marriage. You don't have to give all your reasons. And in fact, this may not even be the best time to give your reasons. Why is that? Because the husband will say, well, why do you want to divorce me? I've been working on myself. He's been working on himself for 15 years, hasn't really changed. Or he'll change for a short time and then go back to his old behavior. And the wife doesn't want to do that anymore. And so, again, I might advise, probably it's best to not give your reasons at this point. He needs to figure out why the marriage failed. You need to figure out why the marriage failed. That may not be best sorted out with the two of you because we have a dog in the race. Especially if I don't want a divorce, then I want to hear all your reasons why. Why? Because it might benefit me, because I may be able to use those to try and change your mind. Not to accept the reasons, but to use them to hopefully change your behavior, choices, and your mind about this. And so I want those why answers for my benefit, not for yours. Mom and Dad, here's an example of Mom and Dad, our family would like to spend Christmas Day at home. We'd be very happy to see you and the rest of the family any other day. I know this is a change from the past. Again, I'm acknowledging that this is a difference. I know this is a change from the past, but Bob and I have decided this is our preference for our family on Christmas Day. Mom and Dad, of course, are going to ask what? Why? But why are you choosing to do this? Do you truly have to give the reasons why? The reason is that we prefer that and to do this for the holiday. It is our preference. I don't have to give all the reasons of we want to start our own family traditions. We want to wake up in the morning and be with our kids and our family on Christmas morning. We want to spend that time enjoying ourselves, relaxing, and having our own traditions on Christmas Day rather than just grandparents' traditions. Not that family's not important or being with family, but that I don't have to give the reasons for that, because many times that will be a reason for the family to try to talk you out of that when you've already come to this decision. We don't have to give our reasons or excuses to justify our behavior or our choices. I remember even with my own brother, who I think used to sell cars. He sold cars for many years, and he sold American-made cars, which was interesting because I wanted to buy a foreign car, and he could not understand why I'd want to buy a foreign car. Later in life, he bought most all foreign cars, and I bought American cars, so cars made in America. So it all got reversed later, which was interesting. But he was not happy with that, and he wanted to know why. Well, every why I gave him was a cause or a reason for argument. And the reason was because this is what I want to do. This is my preference. I prefer it. And I don't have to give you all the reasons why. Especially if you're not truly trying to understand my reasons for me, you're trying to understand my reasons for you and for your benefit. If someone wants to truly know my reasons for me, then I can share them my reasons. But we're not in an adversarial relationship. 3, assertive right number 3. You have the right to judge whether you are responsible for finding solutions to other people's problems. Is that your responsibility or is it not? Let me give you an example where this took place. This was many years ago. I had a car accident, and clearly it was the other person's fault. The police were there. The woman happened to run through a stoplight that was clearly stopped for her. She didn't see it. I don't think she even looked up, and T-boned me in the driver's side. Her insurance company contacted me, which is fine. And I said, I will need a rental. And so would you like to arrange that to have a special deal, or you want me to just go get a rental and that'll just be part of the settlement? They told me, well, her policy does not include a rental replacement. That would not be covered. And I said, I responded, it doesn't matter to me whether it is covered or not. You can pay for it or she can pay for it. It doesn't matter to me. Because if you don't pay for it, then I will ask her to pay for it. If she doesn't pay for it, I guess I will have to sue. Because I was the wrong party, I should be made right. But sir, she doesn't have car rental policy, a codicil on her policy. Well, again, this is not my problem. If it is not your problem, then it will be her problem. I'm sorry. This is your arrangement with her, not with me. The accident was her fault, and I lost the use of my vehicle. Again, it was not my responsibility to find a solution for this woman's responsibility. Believe it or not, the company ended up paying for the rental and taking care of that because they didn't want to see me sue her when she had insurance, I'm sure. Now, things may be different now, I don't know, but back then, that was what I was getting. They, of course, didn't want to pay for a rental if they could avoid that. But I don't care what your policy is if you hit me. And it's your fault. I don't care what your policy is. That's between you and them. I don't have to be responsible for finding solution to other people's problems. I think another way of thinking about it is, a dad comes to you and says, could you make your mom happier? She's not happy right now. And then we just fight about it. So I want you to go and make up with your mother. Well, now, wait a minute. That's between mom and I don't. Whose responsibility for the relationship am I taking over here? If I go and kowtow to mom, let's say, or give in or make nice or whatever, I'm doing that to make dad and mom's relationship work. That's not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to go fix your marriage or how you guys interact. Dad, that's your problem. My problem is between mom and I. Not my problem is not how your marriage works. That's between you and her. So we want to be careful for finding solutions to other people's problems. It's enough to find solutions for our own problems. Number 4, you have the right to change your mind. That's a normal life, recovery, healthy adult right. We have a right to change our mind. Obviously, many believe if you change your mind, then something's wrong with you. And of course, you'll need to justify your new choice, right? No. You don't even have to justify your new choice. Now, that doesn't mean I don't care about people. I might share with people, hey, I've decided I can't go to that ball game with you. And you bought the tickets. So I'll take responsibility for the ticket price, but I cannot go. And I'll be happy to be fair in doing that. But maybe I want to stay home just to watch TV all afternoon. I don't have to give all my reasons for that, especially if I'm going to make them whole. Now, if I bought the ticket, well, then they're not out anything other than my presence, which I don't have to justify. You are free to change your mind for 6 good reasons, or for no reasons, or for 3 bad reasons. You can change your mind. That's an adult right. Number 5, assertive right number 5. You have the right to make mistakes and be responsible for them. This is the myth. Mistakes should be viewed through the lens of adequacy and self-worth and how others should view us or judge us. No, that's not true. I get to judge my behavior, my mistakes, and my life. And you can judge me any way you want, but I have the right to judge that. And I don't believe mistakes are best judged through adequacy and self-worth lens. I have made many mistakes in my life, and I've made many poor choices in my life, and made amends for them, paid for them, suffered for them. I remember one back in 1980, I filed bankruptcy due to my business immaturity and my loss of a business. Well, should you be a pastor if you file bankruptcy? Are you a bad person because you filed bankruptcy? Am I now and forever less than other people because that happened? Am I now a failure for life? No, because I get to judge my own mistakes. I get to take responsibility for my own mistakes, and I have a right to make mistakes. No, I have failed, or I have chosen unwisely about business, which resulted in financial default, which hurt others and some businesses. But it does not speak to who I am as a person. I tried to make all of them as whole as I could. But it doesn't speak to me as to who I am as a person. It speaks as to the mistakes I can make and did make. I hope you'll subscribe, join, like, and comment on this video. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Have a great day, and look out for the next 2 videos that will be assertiveness rights 6 through 10, and then 11 through 15 in the next 2 videos. Have a great day, and be wise. Hey, hi everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and I am a life and relationship coach, and I have been helping people for 45 years to learn to self-differentiate and to deal with family systems reactivity. I hope you'll join my YouTube channel, and I hope you'll click the bell above so that you get all of the new videos. When I create a new one, you'll be notified. And I hope you'll join this YouTube channel membership. It's inexpensive, but it helps support the videos that I produce. This video is entitled, Stop Falling for Your Reactivity. Most of us, and for most of us, reactivity is a common and frequent experience, even when we're unaware of it. It propels our thinking, it overwhelms us emotionally, and then gets acted out in our behavior. One of the most classic examples of this, though it doesn't take this much of a pinging, but one of the classic examples of this pinging is when we are adults, and we travel home for a holiday dinner, travel to our family of origin. for a celebration or a holiday, and we find ourselves slipping into our childhood roles, having childhood feelings, and finding ourselves reacting out of our family's anxiety within us, and we become very reactive to it. We may feel intimidated, fearful, anxious, pensive, tense. Then we may get angry or frustrated, irritated, exhausted, sad, hurt, feel abandoned or rejected. We also can feel shame and guilt and a desire to become avoidant, where I just want to cut off and just take an immature approach of I'll just stay away from those people or those feelings. And that kind of classic example kind of explains how hardwired we are to our family of origin. And just because we leave the family dinner doesn't mean all of that stops. All of it becomes more unaware and becomes more unconscious, but it doesn't stop. And that's the point of this video, because it's out of those experiences and what we carry with us away from the family that causes us so much reactivity in our marriages, at work, with friends, and in all of our relationships. Always remember, reactivity is the system's sleight of hand. Just like for a magician, they say, look over here, so you don't see what's going on over here. And reactivity keeps us focused over here rather than what's really going on within us and within the situation that's reality-based. And it takes us away from our true selves and the reality of the situation. For example, so what that your dad thinks you are inadequate? And so what that your mother thinks you are needy, weak, helpless, and in need of mothering or correcting? And I remember for years of taking those kinds of reactivities from my mother, for example, and needing to mother me, feeling I was weak or helpless, couldn't make good decisions, that I kept trying to either fight against that or change her mind or prove that that wasn't true. That's me still staying stuck in the reactivity of the family. My hunch is my mother had her own feelings of feeling weak, helpless, in need of mothering, and needy from her own family. And that gets carried on down to us. And so what that your husband finds you are and thinks you are over emotional or you're too sensitive? The reason I say so what is that if they think you are a Coca-Cola, so what? If someone thinks I'm inadequate, doesn't mean I am so. If someone thinks I'm over emotional or too sensitive, doesn't make it so. So they're calling me a Coca-Cola is what I use in other videos to describe that. And we react to the Coca-Cola wiring within the family and within the emotional system. Their thoughts, our families, comes out of their family feelings and thoughts from decades in the past and generations in the past. Reactivity is rooted in our childhood, our growing up, our imprinting, and how we are still wired to our families today. And it carries on with us as adults, which thwarts our sense of self and self-differentiation. So we want to practice resisting our reactivity. We want to give it little power. If I start to feel reactive, don't fuel it with your thoughts or your feelings or catastrophizing. It may feel powerful, but this is also a distraction from our anxiety and intensified so that we don't act for self. It blocks self-awareness. It blocks thinking. It blocks staying calm. Then it undermines self-awareness, self-definition, and self-regulation. These are the three pillars of self-differentiation. Let me give you an example. A couple are upset that the wife is over close with her family, parents, her siblings, and her husband is upset that he does not feel special, or he doesn't feel that love for him is a priority. This couple we'll call them Jose and Maria. Maria is enmeshed with her family. She then marries Jose, and she continues that enmeshment with her family. Jose has always felt she favors her family over him. Whenever Maria's family comes up, Jose becomes anxious or upset. And again, the family anxiety moves to Maria, moves to Jose. And it is wired all the way through. And we become anxious and upset. Maria is unconsciously anxious around her family and her over-closeness. Maria is unconsciously anxious around her family, and her over-closeness eases that anxiety. If I fuse, it eases in a temporary way that anxiety, but does not solve the problem. So whenever we give in, whenever we fuse, whenever we enmesh, whenever there's too much togetherness and too much we-ness, it brings down the initial anxiety, but it keeps everything in place so that it does not change. So we will have to do that over and over and over again. Maria's parents are fearful of losing their children through alienation, which occurred with them and their families. There was alienation. So we don't want that to happen, so let's be over close so that doesn't happen. The over closeness is a reaction to the alienation in previous generations. They fuse and enmesh with their kids to keep this from happening in their own nuclear family, even to the detriment of their children's marriages, which they don't see all of this at work. I'm not blaming them consciously, but unconsciously that is the effect. Maria's parents and family use words, and her siblings use words like, well, we are so close. We will always be there for you. Our culture values family, though not you and your husband, Jose's family, our family. We want him to join us. You would never want to hurt your mother by not being here for the family. I don't know why your husband just doesn't get it. We have always been a close-knit family. And again, touting the virtues of that close-knitness. And then they even may take a victim role, which is, I think your husband would like you to just stay away from us completely. And again, that evokes feelings and reactivity within Maria when she hears that. This family of origins anxiety runs through all the family, which is wired together emotionally. Maria takes this anxiety home and her need for fusion home with her. Jose reacts to the unspoken and unconscious anxiety by trying to pull her away from her family and have her meet his needs in which he did not feel special, a priority, or loved in his family. And so out of that, he pulls on her. She pushes on him so she can stay connected to her family. He pulls on her to try to get his needs met from his wiring in his family of origin. Then they often argue about this situation and use her family to do it. So we focus on, well, it's your family, when actually we're not seeing the situation clearly, nor are we arguing clearly or presenting how we feel clearly to each other. What they are arguing about are unresolved feelings and is unresolved wiring and unresolved anxiety and feelings generated in our family of origin. So what do we do when we get reactive? What should we do? Become more aware of your underlying anxiety, this chronic anxiety that Murray Bowen talked about that exists in all families. Remember, becoming reactive, acting out of that reactivity and that anxiety digs the hole deeper and continues the dysfunctional pattern and doesn't address how we're wired to each other. It solidifies your role and place in the functioning in the system. And reactivity is a result of this wiring. I remember working with a Jose and a Maria type of couple. And once they began to see that, they could connect to each other much better. Because then we're starting to get out and pull out of the quicksand of the family wiring. And they can actually have a healthier relationship with each other. Look away from the reactivity when it occurs. Don't let it hypnotize you or keep you in a trance. Locate the old source of the reactivity. For example, what would happen if I chose my husband over my family of origin and address those fears, concerns, worries? Because in actuality, there's no reason why you couldn't continue to have a self-differentiated relationship with your family while choosing your husband over them. It's appropriate to choose your husband over them. Once we become married, our spouses are our priority. And if they're not, there will be a constant argument and fight for love, attention, specialness, power, all of those things. And remember, it's not that you differ with your family of origin or differ with those around you, or that you differentiate within a relationship system. It is that you're reactive in the differing. Differing does not mean harm. Work on staying calm. Practice staying calm. This is an important circuit breaker for the reactivity and the wiring. So once you start to feel reactive, go, I need to stay calm. That's what I need to do. Not I need to react or behave or talk or share my thinking or share my feelings. No, I need to stay calm first. That will allow your emotional system to wind down and allow you to think more clearly about what's really going on. I know it's not easy, but stop looking at or focusing on the reactivity. Because again, the more we look at it and focus on it, the more we'll miss what's underneath it. So look away from the reactivity, though it pulls us towards it through guilt, fear, hurt, shame, fear of rejection, etc., etc. And by the way, with regard to rejection or fear of rejection, I used to say to get my mind to not focus on that by saying, well, if they reject me, it won't make my pants fall down. So what? If they choose to reject me, I have no power over their thinking and feeling. That's up to them. Many times they will reject you out of their system's feelings that they have not resolved, not because you are inadequate or deserving of rejection. So when you begin to feel reactive, begin to say, so what? What is the situation about? Is this, and I use another phrase, the situation is hopeless, but not serious. Maybe I can't change them, but it doesn't have to be serious. and we can say, so what about the situation? I hope today has been a help to you. I hope you'll click subscribe, click the bell, join YouTube membership. I hope you'll follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I want to thank you for joining me today. Have a great day and be wise. Well, hello. I'm Jerry Wise. I'm a relationship coach. I'm a life coach. I've done many other caregiving jobs in my past, and I'm going to be talking about building self-esteem and building self-confidence. I know many of the folks have had to deal with narcissistic abuse and narcissistic people in their lives. Some people may just want to learn more about growing up, being self-differentiated, be stronger as more mature adults, and have happier, healthier lives, careers, relationships. I do want to share a particular perspective, like with building self-confidence, from a different point of view that folks may not hear quite so often, which is more of a family systems approach to self-confidence. And one of the things that struck me as I was reading a book by Marjalis Fjellstad, Stop Caretaking the Borderline or Narcissist, and How to End the Drama and Get On with Your Life. And she talks about building self-confidence in there. She comes from the same background I come from, such as a marriage and family therapy background. And so she does incorporate a systems thinking to the solutions and the problems that she deals with. And I think it's a mature view of those issues. She states, increasing your self-confidence happens by changing your thoughts and behaviors toward yourself and taking good care of yourself. Now, people will ask me, well, how do I build self-confidence? Well, that will require changing thoughts and behaviors towards yourself and taking good care of yourself. It's certainly not by waiting on other people to give you self-confidence, because all of those self words, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-acceptance, are not produced from other people. They are self-esteem, how I feel about me. They're self-confidence, my own confidence that I feel inside me. And self-acceptance, it's my acceptance of me, not other people's acceptance of me. And that's how we build self-confidence, is we work on this self. One of the things that she suggested is, firstly, don't take anything personally. And I think that's a very big component. We often stay enmeshed with relationships and with other people because we take so much personally. You've heard me say before that we want to be sure to observe and not absorb when we're in relationships with other people. We don't want to absorb the relationship, we want to observe it. So we want to stay detached. And if we take things personally, we're absorbing the relationship. And that's where Marjalis is saying, don't take things personally, observe things that are going on, but don't absorb what's going on. And we've talked before, and I've used the illustration of, if somebody calls you a selfish, no good, unloving sister, then what we do is immediately in our thoughts, we go, none of that is true. That is what they think and they feel. And many times it's not even what they really think and what they really feel. It is a systems comment that they're making. They're wanting you to stay enmeshed. They're wanting you to absorb what they're saying. They're wanting a reaction. They're wanting you to behave in a certain way. They may not even fully believe that's how they feel about you, but it is a way for them to control or manipulate you. And so remember that the people you are dealing with are not reliable people to identify reality. They are not reliable in how they would assess you, or mostly assess much of anything, especially if they're malignant narcissists or they're very unhealthy, immature parents, siblings, spouses, friends. and that we begin by acknowledging that they are not good at identifying reality. So then the question becomes, why would I give them that kind of hearing and hear them as somehow reality? Because it's not reality. It is not true. And remember, I think you've probably heard me say before, what I have used in my past is to go, oh, they're just calling me a Coca-Cola. Because what they're saying is as senseless or nonsensical as calling me a Coca-Cola. By saying you're a bad person, you're worthless, why are you so stupid? Why did you do that? That was ignorant. Whatever demeaning thing they might do, that's all Coca-Cola talk. I'm not a Coca-Cola. And so I hear it as them calling me a Coke. And it helps me to not take what they're saying personally. I just put a quote up not long ago. If you understood how frequent people cope by projecting onto others, you would learn to take absolutely nothing personally. Because it is used so often and so frequently that it is very unwise, because so many people use projection and they will take their own weaknesses and their own problems and project them onto you, just like a narcissist would project his or her weaknesses, failings. And how many people do you know accuse you of doing things that they are doing? And that's projection. And so we need to be very careful and recognize projection and where it exists almost everywhere. And I've talked to a number of clients today, and even they were talking about in the workplace and different things. It was like, it had nothing to do with them at all. It was their coworker projecting onto them, but it wasn't true for them. Those with low self-confidence have been victims of projection much of their lives. As long as you carry the responsibility of this other dysfunctional person's views or feelings, then you are not going to be able to see or feel yourself accurately. So we don't want to carry the responsibility for how they feel, what they think, and continue to obsess about that, because then we won't see ourselves clearly. That's why as you begin to practice this, that's where when your mother comes to you and says, I don't know why you treated your father so badly. Now, in reality, I don't remember treating dad badly at all. I don't know what she's talking about. But we can either absorb that and go, oh, that must be a right assessment of us. Or as we begin to work on this, we then start to use our mature selves and go, Mom, I'm confused. I don't know what you mean. That doesn't make any sense to me. Well, your dad said that you called him a jerk, which I didn't, but your dad said you called him a jerk and you treated him disrespectfully. Mom, I'm still confused. I have no recollection of that. I have no desire or need to say that. So I'm sorry, I don't know what Dad's concerned about. I know you're coming to me to share that with me, though actually she's triangulating. And so I would stay out of the triangle is what I want to do and go, well, I don't know. Maybe you should just have Dad come and talk to me and he can tell me that he thought I said he was a jerk or whatever, because, hey, I don't remember doing that. I don't know why I would do that. It's not like me. So I'm just really confused, because an adult would be confused about someone pressing an irrational reality on them. An adult would go, huh? I don't know what. And it's better to be in that confused state than to feel hurt, demeaned, that it might be true, upset that Dad might feel that way. Heck, Dad's probably felt that way most all of your life and has probably done that all of his life. So why is it such a big deal? The situation with Dad is hopeless, but it's not serious. He's been thinking this crazy way for decades. So we want to minimize the importance of that and the importance of that message to us and go, well, Mom, you might want to have Dad talk to me about that. Sounds like you were upset about that. Well, I am upset that you treated your dad badly. Well, Mom, it sounds like it did upset you, but I'll have to admit it doesn't upset me because I don't remember doing it. It never happened, so it doesn't upset me. If you want to be upset about something totally crazy that Dad said or accused me of, then I guess you'll have to be upset about it. That's fine. It's going to be hard for me to be upset about it because it didn't happen. But thank you for sharing that. Have Dad talk to me. And again, Dad's projecting, Mom is carrying the projection to you and triangulating, and then you're supposed to get all enmeshed and wrapped up in the problem and feel very bad, subservient, guilty. Why have you hurt your dad? And you're supposed to go into all of that chaos and mess. Secondly, Margellus talks about respecting yourself. It sounds like, well, of course I need to respect myself. Do you know how many clients I have who do not respect themselves? Do you know how many people are out there walking on the street who don't respect themselves? A good number, if not a very, very, very high number, do not respect themselves at all. They may pretend to respect themselves, but they really don't. And so she's saying self-respect means to consider yourself being worthy of high regard. And are you ready to consider yourself as having high regard? And people go, well, I don't know how to do that. Jerry, how can I respect myself? And I'm going, it's not a how question. It's a when question. When are you going to consider yourself being worthy of high regard? When are you going to begin to respect yourself? And in fact, the when question, though hard, is a better answer than somehow giving you 5 easy tips to respect yourself, because you're going to fall back into the same pattern. If you're not going to choose to begin to respect yourself, then all the self-help books in the world are not going to fix you. We're always wanting other people to matter about us more. But the struggle is we don't matter to ourselves. That's something I can do something about that. I can't change you if I'm not going to matter to you. I can't change that. But I can change whether I matter to me. And that's where we have power and we're able to do something about that. Are you ready to matter to you? In respecting yourself, she writes these things are a part of that process. Taking good care of yourself, knowing or identifying what you feel, honoring your strengths, understanding your shortcomings without self-blame. And that's a very important one. We're going to talk more about that. Accepting yourself without guilt, shame, and blame. That's a real tough one. Thinking about what you want, defining goals for yourself, listening to your own preferences, examining and exploring what preferences do you have? Do you like chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream? That's a very important question. And people go, and I ask them, can you tell me whether you like chocolate or vanilla? And they go, well, yeah, I prefer chocolate. Well, how do you know that? Well, because I've asked myself and I've eaten both and I enjoy that. That's no different than any other preferences you might have in life. Do you prefer this job, this career? You want to do that? Do you want this kind of relationship, that kind? What are your preferences? Choosing your own friends, acknowledging your needs, and protecting yourself. That's a part of respecting yourself. And then improving that, she writes, listening to your feelings, honor your own dreams, love and care for yourself, stop interactions that are hurtful to you, eliminate negative put-downs, take the time to think of what you want, and that takes time. You have to take a break and go, what do I want? In this crazy situation I'm having, what do I want? And so we have to ask that question of ourselves. Speak up for yourself, believe the best about yourself, and hang around people who really like you just the way you are. She also mentions in her book, start positive self-talk and positive actions, balance your emotions and thoughts. In other words, you might want to dial down your attention to your emotions. I didn't say don't be aware of what your feelings are. Dial down your attention to emotions and tune into your own thoughts. Often we have been in the world of drama, chaos, emotional triggering, reactivity. We've grown up with that, and we still experience that with our family and with other people. And so we want to dial down the drama, which means we want to dial down the emotional side of things and think more versus feel more. And I'm not telling people who need to become aware of their feelings of identifying and expressing them. That's an important work we have to do. But overwhelming ourselves with feelings is not going to help us be more clear or be more adult. Control your own feelings of feeling intimidated, that others will want to intimidate you. And again, they're looking for you to be triggered and to stay in the dysfunctional system and relationship the way it's been functioning. They don't want you to change. So they want to trigger you or intimidate you so you will carry the company line and carry the family line, stay in the family trance, stay in the relationship trance. And so I have mentioned, in terms of controlling your own feelings of intimidation, give up hope, give up guilt, give up shame, give up giving others power over your emotional life. And so many people continue in their hope that, okay, they'll change. Maybe they'll treat me better this time. Maybe they'll be nice. Maybe I'm going to just keep hoping that they will be different. No, I can give up hope. That's okay. In fact, I might actually grow up and feel better if I give up hope that, hey, they're not going to change. Now what am I going to do? Now I can begin to take care of myself and begin to live my life. And I know that was very important for me when I began to realize my mother's not going to change. My dad's not going to change. They are not going to become the parents I always wanted. That's not going to happen. They're weak, regular human beings with their own failings, strengths, craziness. I turned mom into Joanne. She's just another adult. I realize we are biologically connected. I understand that. But that is not a magical experience. And so I want to see them as another adult and treat them as such. And so I give up hope that they can be this ideal human or this person that can meet all my needs. Same way with a spouse, same way with friends. Sixthly, she says, learn self-assertion and self-focus. And I think that's very important, that we learn to focus on us versus them. Keep the focus on you. I talked to a client today. She was struggling. She was having a problem with her dad. He was hurtful in what he said and said, oh, well, I think I'm going to go move to this part of the country where your half-brother is, whom that half-brother doesn't even care about dad at all. But he doesn't want to live near his daughter, who I'm talking with, because her mother has come live near them in the area. So he doesn't want to come there. He's saying, well, I'll need to go somewhere where I can be near my family. And the daughter was going, what, am I chopped liver? I mean, I'm your daughter. Would you like to? And in fact, they had talked about him coming and living near them. He's been a great grandfather. She'd like to have him near so they can have a good relationship. And so she felt kind of hurt, and she didn't know if she should process that hurt with her dad. Now, my concern, knowing a little bit more about how dad is, it's probably not going to go very far for her to process her hurt with dad. He's not going to know what to do with that and probably would just avoid it, or who knows what he might do. So I then said, what do you want? If we focus on you and not your dad, what do you want to have happen? Oh, well, I would like him to keep to his original plan and come move here because I think it would be great for the grandkids, etc., etc. I said, that's what you would want to share with dad, that this is what you want. Now, he can choose to live anywhere he wants with his stepmom, but you're giving him your preferences. Then she feels a break in the family trance, a break in the hurt, and goes, oh, well, that is really what I want. And if he doesn't want to do that, then he doesn't want to do that, and I'll be okay. So what I would add in a family systems way to building self-confidence, let the image of your mature self guide you. Start your imagery of your mature self. Visualize, think about, practice statements and questions that would come from your adult self. Grow your inner adult. Now you say, well, I'm not used to doing that. Well, you can begin to fantasize about that first. And you can begin to think about, how would a mature me, if I didn't have these issues, if I didn't have this insecurity, if I didn't have this low self-confidence, what would I do? How would I act? How would I ask that question? How would I make that statement? Now we're into the realm of visualization and seeing a different us. We may not be ready to jump into all that, but at least we begin to let the image of our mature self start to blossom. Another tool that you can use is, what would Betty do? We had a neighbor growing up, Betty, and I always considered her fairly mature, detached. She's not a part of my family. And I would think, well, how would I deal with my mom? My mom lived much longer than my dad did, so I use a lot more mom examples rather than dad. And I began to think, well, how would Betty react to mom? What would Betty say? What would Betty do? And that began to get me into my more adult self. Maybe I can pretend to be like Betty. Maybe I can think about, that's what I think Betty would do. And, well, that's a new way of thinking. And it starts to get me more objective about the situation rather than just caught and in the trance and blinded in the relationship. I began to see outside the box or outside the trance or stay in my lizard brain and that sort of thing. In Jenny Brown's book on page 11, which I love these two quotes, one of them is by Michael Kerr, an expert in Bowen family systems, the other from Harriet Lerner. And Harriet Lerner has written the books The Dance of Anger, The Dance of Intimacy, The Dance of Connection, and she uses Bowen family systems also, much like I do. And Michael Kerr writes, people frequently are willing to be individuals only to the extent that the relationship system approves and permits it. He's talking about enmeshment. That's what it feels like. That's what it's like. For us to grow, become more self-confident, and to grow as adults, we begin to gain and to choose courage to be individuals in spite of the approval or in spite of the permission, because often we will function in the way the system will let us function. And self-differentiation is about living beyond the system, beyond the family. Harriet Lerner writes, the only person we can change and control is our own self. Changing our own self can feel so threatening and difficult that it is often easier to continue an old pattern of silent withdrawal or ineffective fighting and blaming. And most people swing back and forth in the pendulum from one side of silent withdrawal to the other side of ineffective fighting and blaming. Both of them maintain the status quo. Both of them maintain my low self-esteem, my lack of confidence, my functioning in the system. Now, here's a hard one. Become your own best fan for success with regard to self-hate, self-disregard, self-loathing, because all of those things keep our confidence low. And I have a lot of people, and they say, okay, Jerry, help me to change. And then I'll go, well, there are things you can do to change, but I think it may be really difficult for you to change if you don't like you. I'm not a fan of yours. So what you're asking me to do is to be a fan of yours while you're not a fan of yours. And that's going to make the therapy, the coaching more difficult because I'm a fan of yours. I'm on your side, but you're not on your side. And so how can we help you become more of a fan of you? Then what we do together will be much more effective. I've had some clients recently, and she had some major changes that happened. And she said, I know other people may not think these are big deals, but see, I know they're big deals. Just like when I began to challenge my own family and my own functioning, when I said I did not want to be the only one and did not want to be who gave the family prayer every time our family got together. But that went against what I was supposed to be doing. The system says you need to be doing this. And so even making a small step, some people say, well, all you did was you tell your mom you didn't want to do the family prayer. Yeah, but you don't understand. That's not all it was. We don't do that in our family. This was a big deal. And of course, it made a big change in me, even to do that small step. And so we are a fan of ourselves and we are happy about our own successes. Accept yourself. Oh, this is going to be a good one. Accept yourself as you are. And when I tell people, are you ready to accept yourself as you are? Well, no, because I don't like everything about me. And I do dumb things. And I attract narcissist boyfriends and girlfriends, and I marry the wrong people. I'm codependent, and I'm this and I'm that. And, I smoke and I shouldn't be smoking. And wait a minute. I didn't say, are you going to accept you once you become perfect? That's not what I was asking. Are you willing to accept yourself right now as you are? Warts, faults, weaknesses, brokenness. Are you willing to accept that? Well, no, I can't do that. Therein lies the conflict. That's where the problem's going to be. And that's where you're going to be fighting inside yourself and will not be able to make that progress. Because if we could help you to accept yourself right where you are right now, you then could gain some more meaning as to how you got here. You could tell the story and tell their story, your weaknesses story, your wart story, your brokenness story, your why you're smoking story. You could begin to give a narrative and a way to talk so it would become less powerful for you and you might be able to change. Accept your failings and weaknesses with no shaming, no loathing, just accept them. Sit with them, accept them. They have not been accepted, so they keep acting up. If we're a smoker and we don't accept that, then we'll keep having anxiety and anxiousness about needing to smoke. If we attract narcissists and hate ourselves for doing that, we're going to keep attracting narcissists. If we always give in and dislike and hate and not accept ourselves for giving in all the time, then we're going to keep giving in. Or if we over caretake, or all of those things that we criticize ourselves for. This frees us to change and gain greater self-confidence when we are not hating ourselves. Reducing self-hate, self-put-down increases self-confidence. I have people that ask me, Jerry, how do I start? And they're waiting on me to tell them how to change. We don't realize that you've not been waiting on me. You have been waiting on you. You're not waiting on Jerry, a therapist, a pastor, a coach, or God, or others, or friends, or spouses, or partners, but we're waiting on us. The bad news is we're still waiting on us. The good news is that we can show up for us. You've been waiting on you, and that can make a big difference. Now, does that mean coaching, therapy, other kind of help doesn't help? No, of course it helps. And we do need people to help us and guide us. But the real practice comes in what I hope the therapy, the coaching, and all of that will do is help you see you've been waiting on you to show up for you. That's what the good news is. Because you've been taught you don't like you, you shouldn't be waiting on you, and that you will never show up for you. That's what we've believed. And so then when we go to other people and go, how can I do it differently? What should I do, Jerry? But actually, it's the power is already in your hands. It's just we have not been guided to let's use it. Let's you become a fan of you. Self-love, self-acceptance. If you have felt worthless and fear taking assertive action, mistrust your own intuition, have no confidence, take very small steps, and do the trauma recovery. If you've really been beat down in a dysfunctional family and you've had all kinds of problems, take very, very small steps, and then you might want to get some help with some trauma recovery. I think that would help to get you started on that road. Even taking the step to go talk to someone, taking the step to go to a recovery group, taking a step to get a sponsor, those are worthy of your success and being a fan of you. Hey, I went to an ACOA meeting this week. Can you give yourself some credit for that? Rather than what many would be saying, well, I should have done this a long time ago. What's wrong with me? And I only went to one meeting. I should have been going to 3 meetings. There comes that old negative part of us to destroy the success that we have had and what we've done well. Those who have experienced these intense feelings are like someone who suffers with malnutrition. We need to feed them very digestible food in small amounts. Their systems cannot handle normal portions or regular food. Take small steps in healing, which is self-loving. If you're really wounded, you accept that. Okay, now what small step can I take to begin to show up for myself? And then I've even implied this already. To increase self-confidence, deal with perfectionism. And of course, you've heard my motto before, which has really been a big help for me to make small changes and have some successes. And that quote is, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Get support and guidance for doing things in a mediocre way or an imperfect way. Perfection will mess with ACOAs, adult children of narcissists, people who've grown up in dysfunctional families. Perfection will be a killer, and we have to work on our perfectionism. Find a sponsor, a coach, a therapist, a spiritual guide who has maturity to walk with you to build your self-confidence. You might find a therapy group or recovery group, and hopefully that would be a help to you. I want to thank all of you, and there's some new things that are going to be coming out and that I'm working on. I want to thank you again. I wish you all the best. Take care.